Nothing But the Truth. Hello, I'm Raj Chengappa from India Today and your host for Nothing But the Truth. Every week, we will focus on key issues of concern and bring you perspectives and clarity as to why these matter to you and the one clear truth that emerges. In this episode, we are going to look at how your phone has increasingly become an instrument in the hands of criminals to rob you of your hard-earned money, and then tell you what you can do to protect yourself. We have with us in the studio India's top cyber security expert, Dr. Gulshan Rai, who at one time advised the Prime Minister. He was the National Cyber Security Coordinator, to give us the insights that are there on this subject. So, welcome, Dr. Gulshan Rai.
Thank you very much.
Before I come to you, Dr. Rai, first let me give some recent examples of how a few prominent people who have been duped recently by online frauds. And among them is the DMK Member of Parliament, Dayanidhi Maran, and on Twitter, or X as it is called now, said he had lost rupees 99,999, close to 1 lakh rupees on October 8th. And he said money from his Axis Saving Bank account was transferred via net banking, bypassing all normal safety protocols. That was one case. On the same day, Bollywood actor Aftab Shivdasani lost rupees 1.5 lakh. And here the case was slightly different. He said that he had received a message from an unknown number saying that his account would be suspended if he did not update his KYC details. He put his entire bank details, and in no time, the money was taken out from his bank account. Like them, thousands of people are being duped daily by cyber crooks who are robbing banks remotely and anonymously. You and I can easily be the next victims. So we checked with the National Cybercrime Reporting Portal. When I say we, that is India Today, which has this helpline 1930 or 1930, and they told us that the average complaints that come in is over 700,000 or 7 lakh complaints every month. So if you take a look at it and you break that number down, 23,000 online frauds are being committed daily across India. That is 1,000 frauds every hour, and even as we speak, every minute, 16 online frauds are happening. That's how serious the problem is, and that's the amount of number of, the enormous number of frauds that are happening. So, Dr. Rai, let me come to you. You were also the first National Cyber Security Coordinator for the Government of India. You set up this entire infrastructure that is there. How would you explain this phenomenal explosion in the number of cyber frauds being committed across the country?
See, over a period of time, the entire complexity and the shape of technology has changed. Today, you have an emerging technology. AI is underlying layer of every aspect and activity has come up there. The technology innovation and explosion in technology, particularly the software, new softwares have come up there. It's a software dominated world kind of a thing. That has changed the entire complexion of the online frauds and the online kind of a crimes over there. The popularity of phones, popularity of the smartphones. Today 70% are smartphones, 30% are the feature phones there. At one time the percentage was different. Availability of internet, as the moment you take a kind of a connection, voice connection, internet comes as a part of it. So everything has added to the complexity and increase in the online frauds and the such kind of a ATM or the financial fraud has come out there.
I want to give you some numbers, Dr. and you know that you're very familiar with this, but if you look at, there are 840 million Indians who have internet connections. That's almost, 2/3 of our population has that. Of course, the number of phones is double that number. There are more than 2 billion phones in this country because many people have 2 phones. But the cost per GB of data has come down by 96%, which means we are one of the cheapest in terms of telecom charges that are there. And as you can notice, your bill is not very high, even if you use a high amount of internet. When you go abroad, you can see the difference. The third aspect is the Jan Dhan Yojana, which Prime Minister Narendra Modi has credited for, has seen the opening of 500 million new bank accounts. That's another big leap that is there. So what, apart from that, there's been the other major thing that has happened, which is the digital public infrastructure, which now does almost 10 billion transactions every month. And all of us participate in that. We're all familiar with the UPI. We all use it to send sums of money across. But frauds, especially in terms of the UPI, have become common. And in fact, studies have shown that they dominate the overall online frauds that are there. So, Dr. Rai, my question is this. Is the UPI, as we've seen it, it's a tremendous success. What are the things we need to do in terms of ensuring that these are not, frauds are not committed on the UPI, because that's the most common form of payment all of us do?
See, first of all, I would like to say that any transactions we do, whether it is a financial transaction or a non-financial transaction, is passes through number of channels, number of entities. I means the infrastructure or number of entities there. So all those entities are not securely talking to each other there. That's one aspect which is happening there. Now, when you talk about the UPI kind of a thing, there are 5, 6 kind of entities which are interacting ultimately, and they are interacting in a matter of few seconds or less than a half a minute. Money transfer is happening there. People are very happy. People are deploying those kind of apps, online transfer apps there, UPI apps there, and transferring the money. But actually, the entire transaction from end to end, it passes through a number of entities there, where my mobile phone, the telecom service provider, then the bank, then NPCI, and then bank, and again going back to them. Now, look at all the entities infrastructure is their heterogeneous elements are there, heterogeneous softwares are there. Somewhere breaches, somewhere all glitches will be there, that nothing is 100% secure proof. So, because of the vulnerability and weakness in one of the system, the entire transactions can be void, can be hacked, can be done, and this is what the exploitation is made by the hackers there. They understand these things. To the hackers, they are not so highly educated hackers there who does this kind of a thing, but they are a very seasoned kind of thing. They understand the technology. You can get every material how to hack a phone, how to do this thing on an online internet system there, and there are so many shops are there which tells you this kind of a hacking in the name of ethical hacking there. So, they get trained somewhere and they start exploiting the weakness in the system there, and this is what is happening in the UPI based
Now,
system.
I want you to answer this point on the UPI. I mean, in terms of networks thing, it's superb, but in terms of security, what are the things UPI has done? Is it built to have there been improvements in that, or are we very vulnerable on the UPI?
No, UPI has built up. UPI, when it was done, they had built up certain security, but as a period of a time, they also have understood by virtue of experience and otherwise also, they have enhanced the security of the entire UPI's interface. They have enhanced the security interface there, and so is the case other banks and other entities there. But actually, as I said, these are all heterogeneous elements. They are not matching together. That is one aspect there. Second aspect is that none of the organization is monitoring the transaction the way it should have been monitored. 10 billion transactions are happening there. They are not equipped to monitor those things. And I think at the entire monitoring of the infrastructure and security of the infrastructure need to be enhanced. I am sure after the digital privacy, data protection and privacy act comes up, it puts a responsibility on each of the entity that may go a long way in mandating those institutions to peg up or enhance their security of the infrastructure. It should happen, but today it need to be improved many-fold by many layers.
I think
monitoring need to be in place. If you look at the other players, global players worldwide, they have a 24-hour system there where they monitor each transaction, each card, they monitor it. That system need to be made here.
Now, I think you've touched upon a very thing when you said you have to increase security by multiple, number of times to ensure these doesn't happen. Let's take individual institutions. Let's start with the telecom operator. Now, from what we've understood, and we've done an article in India Today recently, these SIM cards, false SIM cards and IMEIs, what they call that international mobile equipment identity, which all phones have, including my phone will have an IMEI, which is unique. And but in one case in Cuttack in Odisha, they found that one person had 5,000 SIM cards that he used in that false SIM cards that were there. So on the telecom, the Department of Telecommunications, as well as the various operators, there's a huge responsibility, because most of these frauds are committed by these false SIM cards, and you're not sure who's calling you, and you think it's the bank, and they've done that. How does one prevent that? Why has it gone to the levels that it has gone now? What needs to be done on that?
See, IMEI is supposed to be the fingerprint of the mobile phone. That's what basically in layman language I can say that. But so that should be hard coded. Nobody should be able to change or spoof it. But today, the technology innovations is making the IMEI to be software controlled. So the hackers take it away and then change the IMEI through the software, and they start moving it. But it is the responsibility of the telecom service provider, and should be regulated by Department of Telecom. It should have been done long ago there, that they should monitor the IMEI. They should hotlist those notorious or the offending kind of a IMEI number, to blacklist them, hotlist them, and they stop it there. Lot of things, I am not saying they can do 100%, but lot of checking they can do that, stop it, prevent it, and that is one of the very effective way to do that. Expecting the common consumer to be fully aware and leaving the things on them, that will not check it. As the technology is moving up, so complexity is moving up, you do not know how the AI is on the tips of the AI kind of innovation, those will come up there, and things are going to be very, very complex. You can see the last 3 years or last 1 year, way of crime has changed tremendously. The innovative way of crime is happening there. So ultimately the responsibility is on telecom service provider, responsibilities on the NPCI. NPCI is kind of a regulator, Section 8 company of RBI, right. Online payment is regulated by them. Both of them had the responsibility either to do by themselves or to mandate telecom service provider and put in effective place there. And the police has the responsibility to be more vigilant there, catch hold of the system what they are have intelligence, burst those gangs, because no, whether you talk of Jamtara or or somewhere else, they do not grow up overnight, they take time to grow up there. So local intelligence will help them, such and such activity happening there, lot of traffic will start generating from those places which are not known to be traffic generating places there, locations there. So I think if we keep a vigilant part, monitoring aspect, it will help a lot to check the menace of the growing online frauds, and then we can make some of the aspects mandatory on the subscriber or the consumer. That will help, but ultimately compliances worldwide are getting more on the service provider, on the companies, and lesser on the consumer, because they understand it is going to be very, very difficult for a consumer to do that. In India, more than 100 crore phones are there. A common man who is not so educated there, they are doing that. They are clicking the phishing message, they are clicking the phishing SMS there, and they are downloading all kind of a notorious apps there. Data is going away. They just do not know. Yes, over a period of time education has come up. Bank are also creating a lot of awareness.
You talked of banks. I think when you talk of service providers, one side is the telecom operators, the other side is the banks, where a lot of money, you are now open and exposed, because we are all doing our banking on this phone. I mean, even to pay small amounts, we are using this, and there the vulnerability is very, very high. What do you think the bank should be doing? Because they tend to say, okay, this is your problem, we have provided some of the securities. What is the kind of upgrade the bank needs to do on security to ensure that these kind of frauds are not that frequent as we see that's happening right now?
No, bank cannot take that kind of a stand. In fact, they shouldn't be allowed to take that stand. Banks are collecting service charges for any debit transaction, credit transaction, or online transaction. They have a responsibility to put in place a proper monitoring system and strengthen it over a period of time. Along with it, as a technology upgrade comes up, they have to strengthen it. The way kind of a sophisticated crimes become, nature of the crime become changes there, they also need to put up a kind of a resilient system to upgrade it. So bank will have to do that. There is no way bank cannot do that. One thing. Second thing, they must settle the frauds quickly there. Yes, they have to get a police help, and all those systems are there, but they have to, smaller amount, they have to settle it as far as possible. There should be time limit to set up. They may define limit. For example, X amount of limit, maybe 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, whatever. I am not saying the thing, but certain limit should be defined and it should be settled within a short period of time. At the same time, they have to enhance their promotion plan. They must keep on, they must give a kind of evolve a system to give a proper software to the consumer, to the client at the time of opening account, so that they are able to recognize the phones effectively when my phone attaches to them or goes to their system to do that. Effectively, as I said earlier, the service provider, be it telecom or with the bank, they have to play a lead role, because they are collectively monitoring money. They are collecting charges from us. They have a responsibility to provide us secure and efficient and fault free services there. It can't be 100%. It can't be 100%, but they must demonstrate that they have taken necessary steps and install the necessary monitoring system. They must learn the examples of the foreign institutions there, and so how effectively it has been done.
Now, I think you had also mentioned the police. Can you, I mean, this is the final point. I know we could, this is a subject of great interest to everyone, but we've dealt with the banks, we've dealt with the telecom operators. You've also talked of how UPI must strengthen its whole entire security network. Let's come to the police. You know, at the end of the day, we complain 1930. There is a police complaint also being registered at some point. What can how effective are the police? I'm told that, you know, in terms of staffing, we only have about 50% of the staff. In terms of overall cyber crime police stations, as these are called, they're also not adequate. What needs to be done in terms of a network so that the police can get into the act and also convict these people? Because unless you punish these criminals, they are taking huge amounts of money from us. Unless they face jail sentences, we will have a flourishing racket continuing wherever you call it Jamtara or New or wherever across the country. I'm told now they've sprouted. So what does the police need to do?
See, you just said that 700,000 crimes are reported per month there, and you read the number 23,000 number or so per day there. No matter how many cyber police stations you set up, every locality you can't set up, every street you can't set up, but no matter whatever you set up, it's going to be very, very challenging for the police to deal with this kind of 700,000 number per month. There's the issue of the skill of the constable, there is the issue of skill of the sub-inspector. Right. That's a separate, there's a more challenge, and 1.2 kind of a million police people are there, that numbers are there. It's a challenging to do that. The police department whom is doing a great job. They are put the condition of cyber understanding and the knowledge when they recruit the sub-inspector, but it's a great challenge part of it there. But I think they had to put a more vigil. Nu or Jamtara cannot happen one overnight day. They have to have a local intelligence to burst those things. That's number one. Second thing is that the moment a crime is reported, they should work with they get the crime is reported, the details are given to them, mobile phone is given to them, all details are given. They should work effectively with the telecom service provider to block that kind of a system there, because when I make a transaction there, it's not the number. So many other parameters of my phone, they travel on a communication there. So, I mean, while I may change the SIM, but I am not changing many other parameters of my phone. I am using the phone, the hacker is using the phone for number of purposes there, and the same phone is being used for number of transactions. So, the basic footprint of that particular phone is not changed then, or does not get changed. So, the police ultimately they have to work with the service provider to block those kind of a parameters which will check the crime there. I'll give a simple example. You don't recognize a hacker or a perpetrator or a criminal only from the retina. You take a fingerprint, you take so many other factors, face there, this face, that face, you take 10 fingerprints. So, these are the parameters which are recognized or attached with a particular person. Similarly, there are so many parameters attached with the mobile phone which should be recorded and should be hot listed in a service provider system there. Yes, it is a cost there. It's a cost there, they have to do. But then
we need to pay that price, because others will be paying a different kind of price with people pilfering everything there.
Absolutely.
And I think, Dr. Rai, unfortunately, we are running out of time, but you've summed it up brilliantly in terms of the key areas that we need to focus. Police, you said, has to be beefed up considerably. and also interface. The main thing is the interconnectivity that is there from the telecom department, the telephone operator, the banks and the police. They all have to work in coordination on this. Finally, some of my colleagues, we've done a cover story in India Today magazine in the recent issue. They put down some do's and don'ts. I'm going to ask you at the end of this to add your do's and don'ts. But here's what some of the do's and don'ts, so that we don't fall into the same trap that is there. I'm going to give a few of them, and then I'll ask Dr. Rai to give one or two. One is how to protect yourself from online frauds. Now, the first thing is, what are the do's? The first do is always do visit the official website of a bank or merchant for correct customer care number. Why I'm saying this, one of my colleagues, they actually have spam customer care numbers where you call them up, particularly if it's other kinds of services, then they hook you up and then they are able to get all your details and everything else. So be careful how you do that. The second point is, do keep your contact details updated with the bank to get transaction alerts. Lots of times banks will call you to say that such an amount is being taken from your bank. If you don't answer, they presume that it's fine and they do it. So be alert, because that's the time to stop it. The third is, do secure your debit or credit card and set daily limit transactions. Very important that you don't, particularly all of us are having savings banks or others where all our money is there. If you set a limit, you can cut it down. Say it's 40,000, 50,000. Try and set that so that you're not duped of a large sum of money. Fourth one is, do use strong passwords. And they should be different for various activities, because we tend to use our children's names, our dog's name, or whatever it is, and very quickly we form a pattern because we can't remember it. Quite frankly, it's very difficult to have 10 different numbers. So be careful on that. Fifth is, do report any unauthorized transaction to your bank to prevent further losses. Very important that you report within 72 hours. There is a time limit for that. If you report it, you may get back some of your money. It's no assurance, but at least they will go into an investigation on that. So remember that. Now, here are some major don'ts. The first is, don't enter your UPI PIN or scan QR code to receive payments. You will end up losing a lot of money. Many people say, just put 10 rupees so that we can verify you. The moment you put it, they get all your money out because they know what your password and everything else. The second don't is, don't save your banking username, password in the web browser or your device. We have this habit. All of us can't remember it, so we tend to put it on our phones or on our computers. Once they hack it, you have left all your locks, all your so-called locks unlocked just because they have the passwords. The third is, don't click any link shared in SMSs or mails, typically threatening to block your bank account. This is what Shivdar Sahni did, the Bollywood actor, and what did the KYC, and he lost a lot of money because of that. The fourth is, don't download third-party apps on assurance that this will help resolve your complaints. Now, one of my colleagues, when she had a problem, they said, download AnyDesk. The moment you put AnyDesk or ISL Lite, your phone becomes open to them. They can see what you're doing, and these can be used to take over your phone and get all vital details to rob you. The fifth and the final point is, don't share your ID, login, password, or OTP with anyone claiming to be a bank representative. A lot of times you get a call saying, let me, tell me what the OTP or your this thing is. That is all could be false. So do double verification. Ask for an email to be sent from them. That's important. Now I'm going to ask Dr. Rai, who's actually laid down a lot of this. What are the 2 or 3 other do's or don'ts that you would like to add to these things?
No, I'll add one do first, that your savings account should be separate, minimum balance you put it there, and that account should be separate, there a main account there from where you do those online transactions of a small amount, 2,000, 10,000, 25,000. So that account should not contain money more than 50,000 rupees, which if you lose 50,000 rupees, you can bear it. The bank will be easily able to reimburse the money, and your risk will be less, your loss will be less. So open a separate account, do this consumer based online transaction from that account. That's one part.
And one don't I want from you, then we'll have to close.
And whenever any message or email comes to you, if it is unfamiliar, look at carefully. Don't just click any message and you click. You look at carefully. Every message which is a phishing, which is wrong, fake message, has some of the hint. If you are careful, you will not do that. But don't click any unfamiliar message or mail or any system just like that unmindfully. Mindfully click it.
Excellent advice, Dr. Rai, and thank you so much for the time that you've taken. Also, finally, do remember that the complaint number is 1930 1930. Easy to remember. Have a problem, call them up, check. That's the National Cyber Coordination number that is there that will enable you or help you out with things. For more details, I know everyone's got this phone and would like to know, and we've all very vulnerable and could be victims. For more details, you can read the latest cover story in India Today magazine that has an in-depth report on the entire kinds of frauds that are happening, what to watch out for, and this is something that you will find very useful. Well, thank you for being with me in this episode of Nothing But the Truth. I thank Dr. Gulshan Rai for his time, and we look forward to having you with me next week. Nothing but the truth.